Hi everybody, it's Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk and thank you for joining me today. Season of gift giving is approaching, so I thought today I would show you how to make a box and also how to decorate a candle to go inside it. Now I'm kind of holding the box at all sorts of strange angles because this paper is foiled and it's very blingy and it's flaring like a mad thing on the camera. So without further ado, let's get on and I'll show you how I put it all together. Supplies that I'm using today to make my box. I've got a piece of Year of Cheer Speciality Designer Series paper, and I have cut it to 10 inches by 11 inches, and I've also got a piece of Whisper White which I've cut to the same size. I've got a piece of tissue paper. This is just the ordinary kind of tissue paper that you use for wrapping delicate things in, and I've just cut a piece that is just about long enough and wide enough to go around the candle that I'm going to be decorating. To do the decorating, I'm going to use the Cheers to the Year stamp set, gold embossing powder and Versamark ink. Put that round the right way so you don't get a headache trying to look at it. And I've got one of the foil snowflake embellishments that are in the autumn winter catalogue. Before I start scoring the card and folding it to make my box, I want to do a little bit of work on my piece of Whisper White, which is going to be my base. Now the base needs to be very, very slightly smaller than the lid if it's going to fit together without problem. So I've got my Whisper White set up on my trimmer here, and I'm just going to cut 1/16 of an inch off the short side, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the long side. Okay, and because it's such a skinny piece, I'm going to start my trimmer and new blade on my trimmer. That's why I'm struggling. Okay, and that's not very neat, but I'm not going to worry about that because that's going to be cut away, and the same thing on the 10-inch side. Okay. And I really do need a new blade in my trimmer. Okay, so 1/16, so that's that little skinny mark. Now I'm going to score my card at 3 inches and 3 inches and 3 inches and 3 inches, and by rotating the card all the time, when I come to do this piece, which is 1/16 of an inch smaller, I don't have to worry about that because I'm scoring 3 inches and turn, 3 inches, 3 inches and rotate, and 3 inches. I've burnished the folds that I've just made, so now I'm going to do some trimming. So now in these 4 corners I have little squares, and I'm going to which way shall I have them going? I think I'll have them going this way. So I'm going to trim in up as far as the place where the folds cross, and I'm going to chop off about halfway, and I'm going to take a little wedge out of the corner, and I'm going to go and do that on all 4 sides of the lid, and I'm going to go and do the same thing on all 4 sides of the base. So I'll just show you on the lid to begin with. I'm going to do exactly the same thing on my Whisper White piece. Okay, and the reason why I'm cutting these flaps in half is so that they don't take up too much room when we come to put the box together, which is the next step. So for this I have fast fuse. Now my candle is quite heavy, so I'm going to be quite generous with the fast fuse, and flick and flick and flick the other way. I've mentioned it before, but the trick with fuse is to be very light-handed because it's very sticky. And some people recommend that when you flick off at the end to cut it like that, that you alternate flicking to the left and flicking to the right, because that seems to keep it on the roller, or keep it centered on the roller a bit better. So so flick one way and flick the other way. And now all I have to do is bring up the sides like this, and then bring in the ends carefully until I'm sure I've got it where I want it, and then I can press down. Got my bone folder, because fuse isn't terribly forgiving. You see that bit is sticking up a little bit, and I'm going to have to trim that. And that was my fault for being a bit too quick off the mark with the fuse. So until you're working with a piece that's got fuse on, push it out the way a little bit. So that would be my top tip. There we go. And there it is. There's the lid of the box. Prepared the box base in the same way. I've got the fast fuse on there, but because the candle is quite heavy, in between the strips of fast fuse, I'm running a line of liquid adhesive. Right. And that is because the candle is so very heavy. Excuse me, I have to cough there. And if you can hear a whooshing noise in the background, it's my computer. And I've tried all sorts on it. Someone suggested that I take it apart and clean out the dust, and I think they're probably right. But it's a Mac. It's an iMac, in fact, and it's not that easy to get into. So I shall probably have a blast at it with some compressed air. Okay, and there is my box base. Here's the candle, all decorated up. Now, I do want to say that as I was working with it, I found that once the tissue paper had soaked into the wax a little bit, it was easier to take the baking parchment off, put the candle on the table, and just work with it directly without the baking parchment. If you find it works better for you when gripping it with the baking parchment or greaseproof paper or whatever you're using, you carry on and do that. I just found it worked that way for me. Right, so now I'm going to put it into the box. So I've got the rest of the sheet of tissue paper right here, and I'm just going to pack that in. Now, gold tissue paper would look really, really nice with this, but as I don't have any, it'll have to be white. Now, I could put another layer on top of that, but I haven't got one handy, so I won't. And then the lid goes onto the box, and as you can see, that is a really good fit. So all I've left to do now is to decorate up the front of the box. To save a bit of time, I've gone ahead and I've stamped and heat embossed onto my piece of tissue paper, and I've trimmed the ends of it, so I've trimmed around where the pattern sort of ends. So I'm going to wrap that around my candle, and I've got here a piece of greaseproof paper or baking parchment or whatever you want to call it, and that is going to give me something to hold on to. Heat gun, and I'm going to turn it on to the lower speed, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the candle through the greaseproof paper, and when my when the surface of the candle melts, the tissue paper will kind of sink into it, and when that happens, I'm going to move on to the next section. So this may take a couple of minutes, and I will turn the sound off because I don't want to hear the sound of the heat gun, and I'll talk to you again in a few seconds. So there it is, and it's very pretty, and Mysti's going to come and join us in a minute, I think. Can you still burn the candle? That's something that often gets asked. It very much depends on the candle. If you have the kind of candle, which I suspect this one is, where the wick is actually too small for the candle, what will happen when you light the candle is that it will burn down inside the candle, and you'll get that wall of wax around the outside. That would be perfectly fine. Obviously, as with any candle, any naked flame, you keep an eye on it. If it's a good quality candle where the wick is the right size for the candle, what will happen is that all of the wax will be consumed, and then the paper may go up in a flare. So I would probably say that this is for decorative purposes only. I've decided I'm going to add a little bit of a sentiment onto the top of my box. So I've mounted up Season's Greetings onto my block. I've got my Versamark ink ready. I'm just going to give this little scrap of Whisper White just a little tiny piece of little rub with some embossing buddy. I'm also going to rub out the inside of that because that's looking a bit muddy. And here we go. So lightly tap with the Versamark. Stamp down with the Season's Greetings. Gold embossing powder, conveniently present. Actually, this is small enough that I don't need the embossing tray after all. Okay, so I've got a little caught little mark there, so I'm just going to wipe that away. And I'm going to turn on my embossing tool onto high. I've got a 1.5 inch circle punch tool, which I have determined is just about the right size for this sentiment. And I'm just going to chop it out. Right, now here's my box, and here is my snowflake, and I'm going to just put some little spots of my liquid adhesive onto here because it's very delicate, and it doesn't need a lot. And the back of the snowflake is it's sort of like a, I don't know, sort of like a very vanilla kind of colour. So you could, if you wanted to, you know, put a bit of ink on them and have them coloured. But I think they're pretty luscious as they are. And because this has got a nice grid pattern, it means that I can centre my my snowflake onto my box. Okay, so let's bring back my Season's Greetings sentiment. And I'm just gonna, I was thinking about popping it up with a dimensional, but you know what? I think I shall just put it just like that. Because there's something about this pattern, this, you know, this gingham type of pattern, that makes me want to go clean and simple. So clean and simple it shall be. And there we are. 2, 1. So there it is. There is my decorated candle sitting snugly in its box with a very nicely fitting lid. And look at that. And yeah, I'm going to have to hold this at a rather strange angle because otherwise you'll get a lot of flare off the lights. So yeah, that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed my video, and if so, then come back, see me again sometime, or even subscribe to my channel. Love to have you. Or you can hop on over to my Facebook page or to my blog, leave me a comment. Love to hear from you. But for now, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Bye bye. Right, so as you can see, Mysti has decided to join us. So she's gonna supervise while I make the box lid. So I hope that you can see what I'm doing through the twitching tail. All right, I've got my my DSP, my designer series paper, and I'm going to score at 3 inches. I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to score at 3 inches. I'm going to rotate it again, and I'm going to score at 3 inches. Whoops, all the way down, and one more time at 3 inches. Okay, so on this side, which is going to be a 4-inch deep box, I'm going to make a mark at my tail mist at 5.5 inches, and again at 5.5 inches. That just lets me know where my halfway mark is. And on this side, I'm going to put a mark at, what was this? This was 10 inches, so one at 5 and one at 5. And that's just going to help me gauge things a little bit later on. Right, now I'm going to take my piece of Whisper White and you're gorgeous, but you ain't half a pain in the tail.